What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by just one of my normal co-hosts. We've got Kyle Henning on the right of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm trying to fix my lighting because it looks like crap.
Yep. Now your darkness. Now it's okay.
What happened here? This was perfectly amount.
Do we need to restart this?
No, we're good. It's a little dark, but the light's there. It's better than not being able to see anything because I have a giant beam of light hovering down over my face. So
Right.
no, I'm good, man. It's was a nice 3 days of no pads and nothing really. Who am I kidding? There was all kinds of stuff going on. It was fun. It's fun. It's nice to have actual football-ish things to talk about. We're gonna talk about all kinds of football-ish things, stuff that's already happened, stuff that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Other stuff that doesn't
did
have a
happen.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, so it's a little quiet tonight because it's just the two of us, but we're gonna hold it down for our fellow podcaster because he's out and about tonight. He's got some stuff going on, so we missed Tom, but Tom will be back. He's not gone anywhere. He's just busy.
He's gonna have a lot of thoughts.
But we had to get this out to you guys because it's the off day between. Because we're recording this on Thursday night before pads come on tomorrow,
aka today, if you're listening to this. So.
Yeah, just ready to talk about this season, and much like I think all three of our leaders of this team, player-wise, we're ready for this season to get underway and locked in too.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype right now surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs. There's obviously with this this first little week of non-padded practice. Being open to the media and all that stuff. There's been a lot of highlights coming out. Obviously, Patrick.
Shout out all the folks out there.
Yeah, we got to shout out a couple. There's been
Eddie High is the original. Eddie High
has been holding it down. He's a great X follow. If you're not on there, follow him.
Friends over at Kingdom Cast have been doing their thing. KC Sports Network has got a bunch of clips.
Yeah. I mean, this is like one of the best so far. It's been one of the best content, from the camp we've seen. Obviously, there's so many people. There's so many eyes on the Chiefs this year, so it's bound to be some rare, very high quality stuff coming out from these guys. So shout out to all of them for giving us this amazing content to talk about, because there's been some crazy stuff already going down, and there hasn't even been pads on yet. So Patrick Mahomes,
the defense is ready for pads in case
defense is ready. I think everybody's ready. I mean, the way that these guys
are
playing, the defense a little chippy out there in some instances. People I think. Are very much ready to, the heat, the St. Joe heat is getting to some folks, and they're ready to let it rip.
It's been mildly tame this year too, to be honest.
Yeah, so far, huh? So far, it hasn't been that bad.
Weather-wise, it's really not been. I mean, it still sucks because it's 90 to 95.
It's been real cloudy out here in Arizona.
It's been real. Yeah. It's not been the 100s, 104, 105 with.
Right.
No, they've had some
so
rain,
far. I don't think
they've had some cloud cover.
Yeah.
They've had some cooler mornings. It's still hot.
Haven't seen any reports of any guys throwing up yet. I don't think.
Oh no, that's long drive drill. It's coming. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean that's pads going on. We're gonna see that. We're gonna see
that's coming.
So it's been a very, very exciting training camp start for the Chiefs. Obviously, with everything in training camp, there are some downfalls, some injuries. Nothing too crazy as of yet. It seems like the most notable one probably being Justin Watson, who went down. I believe it was just yesterday or the day before.
It was I believe yesterday. Him and Nazi went down same practice.
Yeah, so Justin Watson went down with probably the more significant injury. It was noted as a foot injury. I believe he walked off on his own to the blue tent. Seemed like it's it might be just a minor thing.
Front of cart. So if you're not familiar, and you're following either Nate Taylor, or Matt Derrick, or any of the guys that are up there covering it, if you see an injury in camp take place, pay attention to whether or not when the beat writers tell you whoever it is rode up the hill in the front of the cart or the back of the cart, that's a good indicator of severity of injury. If they're in the front, generally speaking, it's not ultra concerning.
Yeah.
If they're in the back, that's not great.
Yeah.
That's usually not a good sign. So
he's in the front.
Just as a nice rule of thumb, front of cart, not the end of the world. Back of cart, don't be too sad, but don't think that it's good news.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully, prayers up for Justin Watson to get healthy, and hopefully he ends up all good. The wide receiver room is pretty stacked, but obviously last year he was like probably Mahomes' favorite receiver. He had probably the best connection with Mahomes last year, despite all the other talent that was on the field. They definitely have a good connection. So don't want to lose him, especially at that veteran presence. There's not much.
He's your vet.
He's the oldest. He's the longest tenured guy besides, I guess, McCole, right? Yeah, who's on that team. So definitely good to keep him around. Hopefully he's all good. And then Najee Johnson as well. Just a minor little knee tweak. Obviously him coming off of a torn ACL last year.
On that knee.
On that same knee, yeah. So it's obviously a rehab process. ACLs, it seems like people kind of forget that like ACLs can take some time. I mean, there's been some recent stories of guys coming back very quickly from ACLs and being good 8-9 months, something like that. But most of the time, I mean, ACLs, it's a thing that it's a year plus is the normal time.
Science is getting better. The surgeries are getting better, and that's all great. But ACL injuries are
still no joke.
Knee ligament damage is absolute crap to deal with, because if you've never done it, I have. I didn't tear it. I strained it real bad, and I dislocated the kneecap, and I cut off a little piece of cartilage and whatnot. I also couldn't walk for like 6 months.
Yeah,
like I avoided surgery, but it took nearly a year to be able to walk normally and do normally, and I don't play football at the highest level on the planet. Now, they have better training staff? Sure.
Yeah.
Right. They do a little more rehab every day, probably, than me the 2 to 3 times a week that I got to go. Yeah. Because your insurance companies don't actually let you go as often as you should.
Yeah, they're in there every day.
That's a separate conversation we're not going to talk about. But it sucks, man. Like, it's because it's not just the ligament and just that little spot that it affects. Because what it does is it weakens all of the muscles.
Yeah, it all gets atrophied. That's the word atrophy.
Yes, everything in that area gets atrophied.
Exactly.
No matter what you do to it to keep it.
And also, it's like stuff like that. It's like it can happen so randomly, just like you make a normal cut that you've made 100 times, and it just ends up being the one little tweak that ends up doing it.
Yeah, I was standing still at the blue line on the ice where I've stood for 23 years doing the same thing I've done 1.5 million times, and that time when I turned my leg, my whole body turned except for my right knee to my right foot. Nothing that didn't turn. Everything else did. No other reason. It wasn't stuck in the ice. It just didn't turn.
It didn't turn. Yeah, it did not turn. So that's all to be said. That Najee, he's about a year out, and something like this. Now, all the reports, and including a pretty significant report from Najee Johnson's mother. Said it was all good. It was very precautionary, his removal from practice. Just because you just want to be over careful, especially
especially right now.
Yeah, like this early, you don't want to rush anything.
An off day.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Rehab that thing. Make sure it's all good for pads rest of training camp, because you don't want to lose him again, because he's in contention for that a starting cornerback spot, which is pretty significant.
CB2, CB3, CB4, he's in that mixture.
Exactly. So those were the two pretty notable injuries.
The only other missing person that people would like to have seen is not an injury, so everybody relax. It's strep throat, and that's no one's fault. But I'm glad that they're keeping him away from the rest of the team so that nobody else gets it, because
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier
Worthy had one practice so far without pads, and in that one practice he absolutely lit it up. Basically had like a internet breaking clip, and then got strep throat.
Couple of them.
A couple. Yeah.
Look, man, if he can track the ball like that routinely,
and he can, I'm just telling you, he can. I mean, you just watch his film in college. Like, he was the best. I said it before the draft. Like, he is the best like deep ball tracker receiver in the draft. Like, he was under the brightest of lights in college last year. He was doing that stuff on the regular. So
and
does not surprise me one bit.
That's an element that as much as when Tyreek left, they figured out ways to replace a lot of the things he did.
Yeah, but not
That's
that.
an elite trait that Tyreek had.
Yes.
That if Xavier Worthy can bring back to this offense, and by the way, I don't think he's the only guy, because I think Hollywood Brown is going to do a pretty good job with it too.
Yeah, he's got some of that
he was
as well.
pretty solid at that in college, and even with some questionable quarterback play, was pretty good at it where he's been in his previous stops. Look, if Patrick can go back to, I can air it out and do whatever I want down the field.
Yeah. With a guy that can just with two guys that can just outrun anyone.
It becomes extremely difficult to defend this offense.
Yeah. So to say the hype is real this year, it's not an understatement. There's many folks talking that this might be the best offense that we have ever seen in the Patrick Mahomes era. Time will tell. Obviously, time will tell. And hopefully
there are still some question marks on this offense.
There are still a couple, yeah, and we'll definitely as camp progresses, and especially as pads are coming on today. If you're listening to this today or this week,
yes,
pads are coming on, and that's where we're gonna really start to see some more fleshed out ideas. We're gonna really see a lot better of where kind of guys lie in the Chiefs' eyes, position wise, depth wise.
It's the first time when they put pads on, it's the first time we're going to get a real look at what they actually think and what they actually want to see from some of these guys. Because, like, for example, the offensive line this week, everybody was, oh, this guy's getting snaps with the ones at left tackle, and this guy's getting snaps at the ones at left tackle, and then this guy's getting snaps at the one at left guard. And then by the time they were done, I had random people were playing random positions the whole time with the ones, and it's like, what's happening? Right. And Andy Reid has told you multiple times, and Andy Heck has told you in not so many words, that when they don't have pads on, he just moves dudes around to see and make sure everybody gets a feel for everything.
Yeah,
because
for real.
Remember, they love. Sorry, one of our podcast mascots decided to come in my room here. So, Mr. Tank. But they do that because they expect these guys to be able to play, much like the receivers play all the positions, the linemen to be able to know all the positions, because you may have to go in an emergency situation.
Versatility is huge. Yeah.
And that's why they draft the way they do. That's why they bring in the linemen the way they do.
Two of these last two guys they drafted. Yeah.
It's especially with the offensive line, the movement there, some of the stuff. But when they go to pads, you're going to get to start finding out a lot of the things we have questions on when it comes to this stuff. And so it's fun, and the first few days are basically glorified 7-on-7, 11-on-11 weird drills. And that's fine, because you're going to get some stuff, and they're going to do a lot of walking throughs and working on little things and so on. But this coming up is the meat of when we're going to find out some of the answers to our questions on this team.
Exactly. So with that, we'll transition into what we might call our main topic of the podcast here. With pads coming on here, we put together a little list, our lists of our own of a couple people, 3 people, and an honorable mention that we are looking forward to watching during this padded portion of training camp, and throughout the rest of the season, guys that might be flying under the radar a little bit, and just guys with a lot of expectation that they have the potential to reach. So yeah, I think this should be a cool thing to break down. There's a lot of guys, obviously there's a lot of guys to be watching out this training camp. We're going to have our eyes on a lot of folks, but
don't believe us? Go read Seth's article about 11 or 19 guys to watch during training camp.
Yeah, so it's a good time here. We're gonna break down a couple. Kyle, do you want to lead us off?
I think it's pretty comfortable for me. The first guy, and the guy that I'm probably most intrigued and interested to watch this camp to see what the development is and what it looks like, is Felix Anudike-Uzomah. And it's for a couple of reasons. One being, we're not 100% sure of Charles Omenihu's status. Charles, I hope you're back by week 1, big fella, like you seem to think you might be. But on the off chance that that's not the case, I would like to see Felix show some of the stuff that he learned throughout the year last year, working with with that room and with everybody and going through stuff, and then especially what he and George and Tamba worked on this summer.
Yeah.
Because what happened with George from working with Tamba to then putting it on the field, and Bobby as well was included in that.
Bobby too. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, George,
tremendous. Yeah.
It was insane. George is a guy that didn't start playing football until way late.
Yeah.
By all accounts. And for him to make that kind of a jump, and he was good before.
Yeah, I mean, he's a physical freak. You know, he's a physical freak.
The refinement of his body, of the technique, of the understanding of what and where things needed to go and how
to play the position, basically.
Yeah, and you're not going to find many better teachers at that than Tamba.
Yeah. So folks who are unfamiliar, Tamba Hali, that was his bread and butter. He was not the strongest or the fastest or the quickest, but he had the best technique by far. I mean, that's what he won. He dominated guys.
Ways, which was
that's
not a human trait you can duplicate, but
exactly. Yeah. So it's for someone like that to work with George and teach him that aspect of the game. I mean, it's huge. And now we're obviously working with Felix this year.
The one thing that I want to see with Felix is better. He's got to be better off the ball because he wins, but and it's weird. But when you watch him, like we talked about it last year in the first 6 weeks, it almost seemed like he was a half tick behind everybody getting off the ball. And I mean, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just so visually jarring because you're like, oh, he got the pressure and he almost got there.
Right.
And then you go back and you watch the originals and you go back
instead of the last one.
Yeah. Even if he was just on time with everybody else, he's there. So I think the speed, we talk about the speed from college to the pro game. He was asked to come in and play right away because of a bunch of stuff that happened. It's a lot. I think the time, that back half of the year where he wasn't necessarily called on as much because he didn't need to be, was good for him. And like I said, I think the summer's been good for him. He is an extremely important piece as far as going forward on whether or not they need to go get more defensive end help this year, maybe this year or even next year, and whether or not he can go and be a factor.
Yeah, people really critique the picks. People really critique the picks of FAU and of George, really. And if all of a sudden if it works out, I mean, George has already basically worked out, but if it works out for the Chiefs, like they could have drafted. Yeah, George is good, but like they could have drafted back-to-back starting defensive ends for them and like have a really good 1-2 combo at the end for the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, it's and long term even there, who knows? It's they might have just found it it's a heavy investment late first round, I guess, but
that gives you but it's still cheap because
what do you
pay defensive ends on the market, guys? Go look, $30 million. That's the going rate for an elite defensive end right now.
Yeah.
And it's actually more than that if you go look at Nick Bosa's contract.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He's upper echelon.
He's the guy, but it's the NFL, man. The next guy that's the guy gets paid.
Is the guy. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so I'll hop over to my number one guy, and it should be pretty obvious to most folks who follow along, and we've talked about him ad nauseum on this podcast very, very frequently. But Xavier Worthy is my number one guy to look out for the rest of camp. Obviously, we've seen a very impressive day from him day one, the one day he was out there basically, and having pads on, having him a lot more live action and running a lot more advanced plays and all these things. There's just so much potential with this guy. And, I've talked about it so much on this podcast already. I don't have to go super deep into it, but just the potential, the Chiefs obviously have a type at receiver. Andy Reid loves a very certain type of receiver. He had Deshaun Jackson for many, many years. Obviously, you have Tyreek Hill excel in this type of deal. And, the past couple years, the Chiefs told you that they needed this type of receiver again. You know, they trade for Kadarius Toney in 2022 to try to get that. They trade for McColl again last year just to get that a little bit more speed on the field. Like Andy Reid has been telling people what he wants as a star receiver, as a main breadwinner in his offense. And finally they have, I mean, probably if Andy Reid could build a receiver in the lab to fill all these criteria, this Xavier Worthy would be pretty damn close. You know, he'd be maybe a couple more cheeseburgers in him and he'd be pretty dang close, you know? So it's like,
you said D-Jack, and it's an extremely interesting thing because he was on Colin Cowherd's show yesterday and dropped a little bit of information that I don't know if everybody saw or heard. So Deshaun was doing some stuff with the Eagles because he's friends with Howie Roseman and whatnot, obviously from playing there for basically his entire career.
Yep.
And one of the things was that Howie given him about 5 or 6 receivers to look at. One of them was Xavier Worthy. Also, come to find out, Xavier Worthy had reached out to Deshaun Jackson when he was still in college and was talking to him and asking him questions and doing different things. So, that's an important factor and thing to keep track of.
That's huge.
But D-Jack said on the show, yeah, he could pretty much be me, and that's good, guy.
From the horse's mouth right there. Yeah.
If you're newish to football or whatever and just found this or whatnot and just found us, hi, thanks, welcome, like, subscribe, follow, say hello, all platforms. But also, that's Deshaun Jackson is one of the better receivers of the last 15, 20 years as far as deep ball guys go, for sure.
Yeah.
He's also one of the only rookies in an Andy Reid offense that has come in and done anything. It's pretty much him, Rashee Rice, and Jeremy Maclin, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. So that's why I think Xavier Worthy, I mean, just the potential for what he can do. And the great thing is that he's not necessarily being relied on like the number one sole guy. You know, you have Hollywood, you bring him in. So that's another guy that you can really hash out. But long-term wise, like this is the guy that's going to hang around for a long time, I think, and really do some significant contributions for this Chiefs offense. So that's why, I mean, the ceiling, maybe one of the highest ceilings that we've seen in quite some time in Kansas City. Like it's Tyreek Hill level of ceiling. You know,
if he can do the contested catch in traffic deep ball adjustment stuff that we saw on day one,
he's the best deep ball.
He's going to be problems. And with, like I said, go watch the Deshaun Jackson interview with Colin. It's like 10 minutes, maybe 12.
That's some good info.
YouTube.
That's good info right there.
It's a really good clip. It really gives you some insight. And Deshaun Jackson, when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Because, man, he's been there and done it in Andy's system. You're not going to find somebody that knows better than that dude when it comes to that.
Yep. So, you're right.
With that, we'll go into my second one. And this is another guy that is going to be extremely important going forward. They can maybe get away with some stuff with him necessarily not having to be the guy right away. But Kingsley Suamataia is a gigantic piece of this puzzle on this offense, in my opinion.
Gigantic human, too.
Yes, he is. If he can come in and establish that he is the left tackle and take the job from Wanya, because he's going to have to take it from him, I have a feeling.
Yep.
That's huge for them going forward, and I genuinely think that's what they're hoping for, and I think that's what everybody should be hoping for.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Seeing him in pads, seeing him on that island at left tackle, and getting live bullets fired at him, so to speak. Figure of speech is metaphor. I shouldn't have to make that reference, but at everything going on lately. So, but with live action, live bullets, everything going on, him and the next several weeks are going to show you a lot of what they think and what they feel like they can do with this offensive line.
Yeah, we talk about ceiling, and once again, like ceiling for Kingsley is through the roof. You know, I mean the athletic profile is all there. He's only 21 years old. Like he's so
kid.
young. He could literally like he'll have a 10 years career and he'll still be 31 by then. Like it's crazy to think about. Like if the Chiefs, have what they think they have, and he can develop into a quality left tackle. I mean, you look at Penei Sewell, his cousin. Like that's sign me up for that.
That's a bad bloodline to be a part of.
Sign me up for
Aren't
that.
there like 7 of them that are in the league or have been in that direct run of cousins and siblings and whatnot?
It's a pretty good lineage that they've got over there. So sign me up for one of those. Sign me up for the Chiefs having a long-term answer at left tackle that you don't even have to worry about.
It's cost controlled for 5 years.
Exactly.
Or
at least
4.5, 5 years.
It's 4. Yeah, he's a second-round pick, but still, I mean, you can, obviously the Chiefs
he's cost controlled for at least 3 at that point.
Yeah, the Chiefs just had a run of having, a very long tenured left tackle in Eric Fisher. Obviously, then you transition to a guy like Orlando Brown, which is a little bit short term of option. So, hopefully this is a guy
out of necessity because Eric Fisher got hurt and basically was done. Like,
I love Big Fish. Big Fish was underrated.
The whole reason that Jawan Taylor and that Orlando Brown even exist in the fashion they do is because Eric Fisher and Mitch Schwartz both.
Man, that's the only reason that Pat isn't a 4-time champion right now. Yeah, so would have been a 4-time champ if not for that. But it's what it is. It'll come eventually. But Kingsley and Suamataia. That's definitely. Yeah, definitely got very excited to watch Kingsley and the whole battle. And obviously, training camp. One of the best things to watch during camp are the one-on-ones, and obviously they're very unfair.
The offensive line, especially.
People. Yeah, very unfair, but it is very fun to watch. And if he just comes out and starts dominating like Mike Dana and George Karlaftis, like that'd be a big message.
If he comes out and people are getting he got beat in a one-on-one drill.
Once again, got to temper the expectations because there's absolutely no help.
It's a one-on-one drill, and it's literally not set up for the offensive line.
It's set up for the defense to win. People got to remember that. They're great clips to watch, but they are set up for the defense to win. So that's when we saw Truman Jones beating Orlando Brown a couple years ago. It's like, well, because it's set up for the
mismatch.
Yeah, that's exactly. So
it's not a style fight kind of thing in the one-on-ones. And remember, offensive line play. We talk about the unit all the time for a reason. The unit matters. You're as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah, and if you're working next to Joe Tooney, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good partner to have next to you.
We'll see about who's playing left guard, but
yeah, you're right. Okay, hopping into my number 2 guy that I'm looking out for this camp. Another guy that we happened to already kind of talk about a little bit because of his injury, his little injury scare earlier. Nazeeh Johnson is a guy for me, and really it's the entire like cornerback 2 competition, Nazeeh Johnson, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, the way that those 3, like one of those 3 is going to take that job probably and really excel at it. And they all have an extremely high upside. They all, I would be comfortable with any of them taking that job. And
2 of the 3 have done it at points before.
Exactly. And this, the way that Nazeeh, especially though, it's the way that Spags has talked about him, just the potential that we saw him getting runs with the ones last season in training camp.
Didn't he call him NJ the other day?
Yeah, like that's pretty high praises for a guy who was drafted in the 7th round out of Marshall, And so I just think the whole story of him getting some significant playing time and really being a threat on the outside would be really awesome to see, And once again, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, all those guys, I'm really excited to see how basically all the defensive backs are utilized. Like there's a good chance anyone can be playing anywhere. Obviously Trent's been getting runs with the outside for most of camp already, but who knows? Maybe they put him inside still. Maybe they obviously they can utilize a lot of different packages and get different defensive backs on and off the field. So Nazeeh for me is like the main guy that I'm looking at, and I'm really excited to see if he can take that job just because basically of how underrated he is, and just he kind of didn't get a fair shake out of it last year. So I feel like the comeback story would be really awesome to see. But
yeah, the story would be awesome. And this is what I would say on that whole conversation of the cornerback 2 position. I'm good with all 3 of them. I just want one of them to take the job.
Yeah, like really.
I think Dave Merritt said that earlier this year. But what you really want is for one guy to just say, mine. And then the other 2 spend the rest of the year trying to take it from him, which is great. That's fine. battle for snaps. You need depth at corner. It's a big league, lots of receivers, lots of talent. And guys get hurt. But I just want one of them to just command the spot. The rotation thing and Spags piecing it together and making it work and all that is fine. You just want somebody to take it over and do it. And I legitimately think all three of them could probably do it at some point in a different manner, one manner or another.
I agree. It's crazy that all three of them from the same draft class, as well as Trent, and just the amount of
and they're all boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good group to have, and obviously, with the way that the NFL works, they probably won't all still be here in a couple years, but it's good to see. The last 2 years of this thing, they can really, just have a good time of running, and that's why the Chiefs felt so confident of trading Snead, because they had all these guys in the wings that have really, really high upside and a lot of potential to be solid contributors for the defense.
On the Snead note, if you guys haven't seen, he's already being load managed like we thought he would be in Tennessee. So we talked about it last year.
He admitted that he did in Chiefs camp. That's the thing. We talked about it a lot. Snead, he's a tremendous player, and it never stopped him from playing on game day. It never did.
Nope.
It never did. But
it's just a lot to ask when you're paying a check like that to have that kind of. It's tough.
Yep. So, and if he goes out and dominates on the field, no one will even bat an eye.
And you just mentioned all three of those guys and why they felt comfortable. And actually, what's funny is my third guy is, I think, the other reason they were okay with it, because, and I keep hearing everybody talk about, well, why don't we just leave Trent in the slot where he's great and this and that? Well, because you already went and got your next slot guy, I think. And that's what I think we're going to see in camp, and that's what I want to watch with my third guy, which is Shamari Connor. I think he's your Trent. I think just like Trent was L'Jarius when L'Jarius moved from slot to outside on the progression, this is how they progress guys. This is what they do. So for me, with what we saw out of Shamari last year as a young rookie, getting those snaps, doing those things, he blitzes well, he does
very well.
Can cover, he has no problem being physical. That's an important spot, and I think it's the piece that allows them the depth that they have. He could probably play outside if he had to, but I just really would like him in the slot this year. And then maybe next year, unless one of those guys separates themselves and takes care of it, he has the opportunity to go fight for that outside spot. But I think between him and Jaden Hicks, they're going to see a lot of that slot corner, third safety, switching in and out depending on what the packages and situations
package, nickel package, nickel
if they
bag,
need to be heavier in the box on the run and like maybe you're playing Baltimore and it's not Shamari in slot corner, it's Jaden because they're going to run a lot or something stuff like that. So
the personnel and the packages and all the groupings that they can use is so deadly, and we know that Spags is going to use it too. Like we know
Shamari can establish that, hey, this is my spot. This is my slot cornerback spot. If anybody wants snaps in here, they're going to have to come take them from me because I can do everything in here. And I think you're going to find that out in camp. And the matchup for me, it's going to be – now, depends. I say that. If they do what they did with Rasheed last year, then that's going to be what I want to see is him and Rasheed get at it in that slot.
That is a good matchup right there. You're right.
Now, we've seen Rasheed run routes on the outside more during these first few days of no pads. And also, we have zero update on that suspension to the point where people are talking about in a more serious tone that it may not happen until next year, which is crazy to me.
That is crazy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Everything about they said about Shamari, and I think he will take that position pretty handedly. He's a crazy athlete. We saw how much they like it to utilize his versatility inside.
Brain. It's his anticipation and his decision making.
Once again, I don't know how they do it, but the Chiefs just find these guys that are just like crazy like football sense. Basically.
The football IQ, I don't know what they use to test it or scout it.
Yeah,
but they know. I'm sure there are 30 or 31 other teams that would love to know because look, man,
you know what they do.
You have to be intelligent to play in Spags or Andy's system, either side of the ball.
Right.
And let's not get it twisted. Andy does not a damn thing with the defense.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're going to play for this organization, and you're going to have to play early if you're getting drafted by this organization, because they have to, because they got to pay their veterans. So the rookies got to get snaps.
And they did.
They've got to be a certain level of football IQ, and they keep drafting it. It's nuts.
It's nuts. Okay, getting to my third guy before we both have an honorable mention that we'll briefly touch on as well. But my third guy that I'm looking at for training camp here in the wide receiver / running back room, Mr. Kadarius Toney himself. So if you are not familiar with what I'm referring to, the big news of this last week was that Andy Reid came out and said that they were going to use Kadarius Toney in some they were going to give him more looks in the running back role. Basically, they were going to give him some looks, give him some options. He excelled in those roles in that position the past couple years. It's Andy said that it's a position he likes to play is running back. I think it's a phenomenal idea, and we'll break it down why. There's a good couple reasons why. So Kadarius Toney, right? Tremendous athlete. We were talking about before the show. They really just need to turn his position. They just need to change it into athlete. Just put ATH next to his position. That's what he is. He's not a wide receiver or running back. He's an athlete. Because pound for pound, he might be a top 10 athlete in the NFL. The problem with Kadarius Toney is mental. The hands are good, not great. Sometimes okay, kind of bad. You don't want him lining up near the line of scrimmage. Obviously, we've seen how that goes. You don't want him anywhere near there. And so you put him in a position, and there's a guy who put together a lot of the clips of Kadarius Toney being
looking for it.
Yeah, being used in that running back position. I retweeted it. I think you probably find it on my Twitter at Garrett720 for real. But getting the ball into Kadarius' hands with as little thinking before the handoff, before the touch happens as he can, is huge, because his ability to, his vision, his agility, his elusiveness, his fight after the contact. Like if you watch him, he is fighting for every yard. It's actually pretty impressive to see a guy, as small as him, really fighting and sneaking his way through some of these tackle attempts and some of these defenders. Getting the ball into him as quickly as possible and letting him just utilize his athleticism without having him near the line of scrimmage. He doesn't need to catch the ball. Maybe just a little toss. Maybe just something quick like that. But I think it's a tremendous idea to use him like that. Will he get traditional running back type carries? Probably not. I think they probably utilize them in more of just either quick things, a quick like screen pass, or
I'm not going to call him Debo, but don't be surprised if they
a little bit of Debo. If you look at how San Francisco uses Debo, it's kind of that same thing. You're either getting probably something out of the shotgun,
short, intermediate, or behind the line of scrimmage.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll probably be used as a decoy a lot. They'll probably do some crazy formations, go full house formation or the wing tee or something crazy, and he'll be in the backfield there. And the threat, I think, of Kadarius Toney is a big one, and that was obviously something that we saw with Tyreek a lot. It's like, and we see with Kelsey day to day. It's like just him being on the field commands attention, And if you see Kadarius Toney lined up in the backfield, you're probably thinking to yourself as a defense, that's a little suspicious. All right, there's probably a pretty decent.
We don't want him to have the ball.
And with him being in the backfield, there's probably a decent chance he is going to get the ball, and that's not good, because when he actually gets to hold the ball and starts running after the catch, he is tremendous. So I'm really excited to see how they utilize him the rest of camp and obviously throughout the season in that role. I think this just boosted his odds of making the roster 100%. I think it almost locks him in my opinion. And it's very interesting. I was thinking about this the other day when this was first announced. It's so interesting, the whole Kadarius Toney saga that we've seen. Obviously, he gets traded. He gets utilized a little bit in that Super Bowl run versus the Eagles, and then he has the big thing. And then all last year, all the hoopla and all just the all the stuff that was off the field, and you just don't see
and
this.
on the field
too. And it's like, it's just something you don't see this from an Andy Reid team. Like Andy Reid doesn't tolerate these type of people unless there is something like really good about them,
Yeah.
And the way that Pat has talked about him, the way that Kelsey has talked about him, the way that obviously Andy Reid has talked about him, like
they all still believe in him.
Yeah, he's obviously done something in every facet of being in the building since he's gotten there that they have a lot of faith in him still. They have not given up on that dream and that, the aspiration of what he could be.
Well, there's, I think, a couple reasons to that. One, I think you make an excellent point. The crap that happened around the Super Bowl last year, if there wasn't something, or if they thought that was malicious in any way,
right,
he'd be gone. And a lot of people thought he was gone as soon as that, and as soon as they didn't, and hell, they let him come to media night and answer.
It was like they act like it didn't happen. It was like, what do you mean? It's just no.
Now he didn't suit for the game, if I remember correctly, but they did the same thing to Clyde the year before in a similar fact. Like
he came back and
Clyde didn't do anything like that off the field. So
yeah. So obviously, you're right. The intent, the conversation behind the scenes, So
that's part of it, and then the other part of it is talent. It's the NFL, guys, and I've said this forever, and it's not just me. This is a fact. If your talent outweighs your distractions or problems, they will find a way to keep you. Period. Yeah. And he is crazy talented.
Yeah.
And if you need an example of how he's hard to quit, in this last 3 days, there is a play where he got the ball and he had Cole Christensen in front of him, and I am so sorry, Cole, that happened to you.
Yeah.
Twice in one play, because Nate described it on the podcast. I saw a clip of it. I can't remember who posted it. If I could remember that, I would. He juked him twice.
Yeah.
On the same play, so bad. I'm fairly certain Cole is still looking for pieces of clothing. And it's not Cole's fault. Cole Christensen is not a bad football player.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney's a freak.
Kadarius Toney, you're right. Yeah, it's crazy. And it was funny, the interesting thing, I thought, the one little training camp kerfuffle that we've seen so far happened to be involving Kadarius Toney, him going on a little out little run, and George, at the end of the play, just
extra, a little much.
Just a little shove. It wasn't anything crazy. Kadarius gets up and throws the ball at him.
That's a little too much.
I mean, but and with the guy, especially like Kadarius, you just don't want to touch him too much. Don't touch him, all right? Yeah, he should almost want to give him a yellow jersey. It's like, hey, don't touch this guy too much, all right? But
he's already been hurt before. Let's not hurt him.
Yeah. One of the things I got out of that clip, though, I will say, was the fact that I bet the defense is already a little tired, maybe, of having to try to potentially wrangle him in some instances.
All three of them.
Yeah, and
I say 3. There's probably more like 6 because they have.
So I'm sure George might have been speaking for a crowd of like, hey, that's just we are tired of this guy running wild on us in camp so far. All right, we need to simmer him down a little bit. So just something slight. It wasn't super malicious.
On that note, and in that same incident, who was the person that came and chewed George's rear end about what happened?
I mean, who else but Uncle Trav? Uncle Trav is gonna let him know.
So much so that TMZ thought they needed to make a headline out of it.
Well, we saw that last year with when Trav gave a.
He actually punched somebody last year. He actually
punched somebody, yeah. And
that one I at least understood. This one was just clickbait to the finest.
That just means that the boys are fully in camp form and ready to, they want it. They want it bad. Let's just say that. Obviously, Travis is that's his thing. He's not afraid to stand up for his boys, especially Kadarius.
So I'll do my honorable mention, and it'll be much shorter than the 3 main ones, obviously. Louis Rees-Zammit, man, pads. I want to see the kid in pads because this running back room has a lot of question marks in it. You have 2 running backs right now for certain: Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde. That is it. Deneric, I know you were here last year.
He's getting a lot of. He's getting a lot of spells for
who else is there?
Nobody.
Okay, so and this is something you got to remember. These first few days, they've been giving Clyde and Pacheco like
rest.
a couple of snaps, and then it's
don't
been
really,
like, hey, all the people we don't have a clue about, can you go do
we're not really
stuff?
running.
We
We're
don't.
not really doing running plays anyways. So
Right.
you can come stand
Exactly.
in the back.
So, the biggest question about I don't really question whether or not he can catch. I don't really question whether or not he can run, and because we've seen that he flat out said he had a bad day at camp and ran a 4 at the Euro camp and ran a 4.3. So like, okay, that's all fine. What does it look like when he puts pads on?
Mm-hmm.
And what does it look like when he's asked to pick up a blitzer or pick up a pass block? If he can do that, I don't know how he's not on the roster.
Exactly, and I might even argue he's a roster lock, which is kind of crazy to say for a guy who's literally never played a snap of football. But the way that they've treated him this entire time, the way the potential, the athletic profile, I mean,
and all the things, the random stuff, like the random special team stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, like I think he makes the team just on the special teams alone, just the new kickoff rule that we talked about ad nauseum so far. But you're right, like the potential for him. Obviously, they listed him at running back for a reason. Like they could have listed him at any position, and they chose running back because that's actually a position where you can get the ball in his hands. And
he was talked about as a wide receiver when he was coming out of the fucking
exactly
Euro camp thingy.
And obviously they were like, hey, this is a big guy. He's obviously a very tremendous athlete. You're right, like the blitz pickups, just the actual nitty gritty of the running back position. If he can do even a little bit of that, pretty good in his first year of playing football,
organized, professional.
Yeah, it's like I mean, running back, it's like not the easiest position to pick up on all the things. It's you're reading, zone gaps and blocking schemes and all these things, and you're just
you have to know all of the
you gotta know where you're running.
Can come from and all of
yeah. So it's a big position, and
it's not like middle school where it's get ball, run forward.
Right. Yeah. This is high level football here. It's a lot harder a running back position. So obviously early on kickoffs, we'll see him definitely, I think. But the long term potential of him as a running back option is huge. I agree. That's going to be fun to see what they end up using him as, or what they do with him. So my honorable mention to wrap that up here. Another guy in the wide receiver room we talked about a little bit already, but Nico Remigio. Undrafted free agent last year, who they stashed essentially on the IR as kind of a redshirt year. Such high potential. Matt Nagy has been talking his eyes off. I mean, he's been gushing over Nico this whole camp process, basically, of how talented he is, how much he understands the field, how just everything about it, what he brings seems to be tremendous so far. We've already seen some really great connections with him and Mahomes on the field. So that's a guy I think could almost certainly lock in as a roster spot for that wide receiver 6, maybe wide receiver 7. I think there's a chance they carry seven wide receivers, just with the amount of talent that they have on there. And with Rashid Rice probably not getting suspended, I guess. I don't know. But if he doesn't get suspended, you're just probably going to need to. But
we'll
definitely
roll with that as they do.
Yeah, but I think Nico definitely has a chance to be a much higher upside wide receiver 6 than we've seen in the past. We had like Justin Ross last year as kind of that guy, and maybe Montreal Washington for like a breath.
Holy crap, I forgot Montreal Washington.
Yeah, and he's still there, and he'll probably make practice squad or something. But
and
Nico, I think
that's nothing against Montreal Washington. It's just how many different
tremendous punt
we had
returner.
last
Montreal
year
Washington, tremendous punt returner. Got to give him punt return dues right there. But Nico, I think actually has a very, very likely chance of both making the roster and even being a legit contributor, even with the amount of names in that wide receiver room. So with that wraps up our lists essentially of the guys we're looking forward to in pads.
The only other thing that I want to make sure that we mention, because you talked about the wide receiver numbers, and the thing that I think is going to help factor into that is what they decide to do with the tight end fullback conversation. And yes, I said fullback. They have one in camp.
They have one. Will they have one for long?
I don't know, but I think
maybe
the more we watch camp, keep an eye on how many tight ends you think they're keeping on the main roster. Because if the number is 3, like I think it may be, that gives you the room to do some different things, either with fullback and extra wide receiver, maybe both, depending on what you do with how many linemen you keep.
Extra running back, obviously, with having LRZ and Deneric
right.
Yeah.
So and with the running back room though, I think they may not worry about keeping more than 3 on the active like normal because they have practice squad room for so many of those guys, and most
That's
of those
true.
dudes will make
Yeah.
it. So I do truly think the number of tight ends is going to determine a lot of whether or not how many wide receivers / if they keep the fullback.
Yeah, I agree. That'll be another position to definitely watch how they utilize. Obviously, the 12 and 13 personnel was something that we talked about a lot, and they have good success at. But how often do they use it? That's TBD. Especially with all that speed on the field now, it's who knows. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have a lot more positions to talk about. Obviously,
oh yeah, we got a lot of camp left, guys.
We got a lot of camp left. Defensive line, linebackers. I mean, all safeties.
Jared Wiley.
Offensive line more. We talked about a little bit of offensive line and tight end and running back and kicker, punter, all the things really. I mean, all the things.
Your kicker's done. Your punter is done. From everything that I've heard from camp about
long snapper, I think is done. I think
it's done. James Winchester's your
long
snapper until he retires.
Might be able to pencil that one in. Yeah. Sure. So with that, to end this beautiful episode off, we have to talk about some off the field stuff that some silly folks around the league decided to.
Some people don't learn.
Almost the end of July. Let's just mail in some bulletins for Patrick Mahomes to pin up on his chalkboard.
Should we go chronologically here?
Yeah. So we'll go first and foremost, which was yesterday, I believe. Jamar Chase. This came out, which
you can thank the NFL for that.
Yeah, obviously the NFL top 100 is going on right now, which that's a whole separate conversation. That's going to be stupid because there's still not a single chief revealed inside, and we just got to the top 50.
That also doesn't include Snead.
Yeah, exactly. So there's probably going to be a lot of notable Chiefs admitted from that list. The obvious ones are going to be on it. But, NFL Films came out, released Jamar Chase's his explanation for who the number one player in the league is. Basically come out and said, we all know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say his name.
If you listen to the clip, I've listened to it probably 5 or 6 times now just to laugh because
it is funny.
He literally he basically turned Patrick Mahomes into Voldemort, Beetlejuice, anybody that you have to say he wouldn't say his name. He kept saying, I won't say his name. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to do it. I'll give respect where it's due, but I'm not going to do it. Well,
yeah.
If you won't say his name to give him the respect, then is it giving him the... So that's a little contradictory. The only thing I will say about it that I will at least give him credit for is he at least admitted he was salty while he was talking about it.
That was fair. That's a good self-awareness right there. But that's bold. That's bold. I'll just say that.
I won't say his name. Yeah. First of all, I tweeted this right when I saw it, and I'm sure other people had similar thoughts. But if the Chiefs game day staff doesn't play "Say My Name" when the Bengals show up, followed by "Hi, my name is" from Slim Shady or from Eminem, or will the real Slim Shady, any of that, also to make fun of Joe Burrow's goofy haircut that he decided to roll out. That boy looked like. That man looked like Wish.com Cody Rhodes.
It's going to look worse, too. Once he grows it out and it's long,
it's going to be all bad.
Oh, my God. It's going to be so bad. So that's a bold move. So with that, that was bad.
Voldemort. Did nobody pay attention? I know that not everybody's Harry Potter fans, but that movie has a very basic premise.
That is the one thing.
If you give power to a name because you're afraid to say it, you're already admitting.
Giving it more power. Yeah, you've already lost, actually, turns out. So that was, that's one thing. And then what came out today from an organization that just does not learn. I mean, they just do not learn, not even a little bit. A couple years ago, they decided to dance on our logo and then lost 41-8 or something.
48-9, I believe, was the final score.
Something like that. So they don't learn. The Raiders, just a bunch of silly willies over there at the Raiders organization. I'll tell you what, just a bunch of silly gooses over there, deciding to break out a Patrick Mahomes Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog puppet dressed as Patrick Mahomes and doing little funny impressions and whatnot, holding the guy. I guess the guy in the video is 7th round rookie.
7th round rookie who has never played a down has decided to mock Patrick Mahomes and say, not just mock him, but sorry for the children if you're listening to this, I'm a bitch.
Yeah, that's I mean, maybe the number one thing that you don't do, actually. Maybe the number one thing that on day one of the meeting room, you sit down and say, hey, listen, you don't do this, and you don't poke the bear that is the reigning, defending, back-to-back Super Bowl champion,
who has
Patrick
won
Mahomes.
More playoff games and Super Bowls in your own building than you've played in.
Yeah. The last NFL football game played in your stadium, this guy just won the Super Bowl.
They smoked cigars in your locker room afterwards, guys.
Super Bowl winning cigars, not just like week 3 regular season
Christmas Day cigars.
Yeah, but like Super Bowl victory cigars. So safe to say the Raiders will find out. Bobby Strope has already, as everybody else has already mentioned, that we will remember this. This will be remembered.
I think it was 10 minutes.
Yep.
Is how long it took to find Bobby. And then
about another 10 minutes after that, the original tweeter actually decided to delete the tweet. The clip is still online forever, though. It's already been tweeted out by multiple people. We will remember this.
TikTok, Twitter.
We will remember. Patrick Mahomes will remember. If there is a line to be had on the Chiefs-Raiders games, over points, over totals, and Chiefs to win that. We are not gambling advice givers.
That just seems
but you can lock that one in. If you had to bet on a game for Patrick Mahomes to throw over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, you could lock those ones in as a good bet.
For fun facts, that would be Week 8 and Week 13. That would be October 27th and November 29th.
Yep, October 27th. It's going to be a little spooky, I think, for the Raiders. It might be a little spooky close to Halloween time, so we'll see. But definitely pretty stupid. Stupid of them to do that.
This is the same kind of stuff when I used to ask, remember when everybody used to make fun of the Patriots because they would manufacture things to get mad about and whatnot because people realized that giving Tom Brady, a very petty, competitive human being, any kind of anything is a bad idea.
Very bad idea. Yeah, very bad.
Look, y'all, we talked about them not learning, and I know Chiefs fans get this, but I just cannot fathom.
I mean, what goes through your mind?
And I know he's a 7th round rookie. He's just having fun and all that.
Has he watched the NFL
and the past
5-6 years?
But if you're a leader in that locker room, how do you let that happen?
Yeah.
And a fan brought the puppet. Okay, great.
Yeah, but don't do that.
You don't have to do.
Maybe you sign it as a little joke or something, but you don't do that. You definitely don't do that.
You damn sure don't give the man who literally looks for anything to be mad. He counted on his fingers at the Chicago Bears, for Christ's sake. And what are we doing?
It's really good. Now this is a situation that the Raiders and their new head coach. This is a time where they should have had the entire team line up in a row and do push-ups.
John Harbaugh.
I don't know what the Chargers did to warrant that, but this would be one of those situations.
35 minutes after practice, after autographs.
After they already signed autographs, have your star quarterback do push-ups.
So weird.
Very interesting tactic. But this is a more likely scenario. This is a time when you do that. I don't know what the Chargers did once again.
Culture, John.
Yeah, it's all about the culture, I guess. That's all of a sudden the Broncos almost looked like the most competent ones. Oh wait, I saw.
No, just kidding. Bo Nix is their starter, most likely.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah, we saw that clip.
And they don't have anybody around.
All right,
I wouldn't even be mad at the Bo Nix thing. I kind of feel bad for Bo Nix because, I think he could be okay, but if
he was a second round pick, great.
But he's got nothing around him.
He got nothing. Yeah. So hey, onwards and upwards we go towards the NFL season, training camp. Continuing on the rest of this week, next week, all that good stuff.
Add it to Nick Wright's bulletin board because both of those dudes are going on it.
Add to a lot of people's bulletin board.
I can't
remember this.
I'm genuinely curious to see if Nick just sticks a giant Kermit the Frog. I'm so interested to see what happens on that show tomorrow because you know he's gonna be ready to go with that.
Yeah. So with that being said, we are all very happy here at the Kingdom Says that we're on the right side of the thing. We're on the right side of the thing. We gotta remember that this is a good time.
Maybe somebody should have showed him the hat.
Yeah. In case they missed, maybe you have to send them a couple hats to remind them.
That's not even the right hat.
That's not even the most recent one. That's two ago. So that's how that goes. Maybe you'll learn about that one day, but not anytime soon. So with that being said, that's all we got for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for tuning in.
Punching air right now.
Yeah, so pissed. It's geez Louise. So we will be back next week as pads go on and many training camp clips and content comes out and continues to roll. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, Twitter, and X. Nope, Facebook, X, and Instagram. Yeah, sorry,
X and Twitter are the
X is Twitter. I guess I gotta finally start calling it that. I don't know. It's never gonna turn back, I guess. So I
still call them tweets.
I mean, I do, but
I can't. My brain, it's still Twitter. It even says Twitter when you go to the stupid domains and half the time stuff still like.
Yeah. So maybe one day it'll come back. Old glorious Twitter will be back. But be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts at. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming this year for you. So be sure to be along for the ride.
We don't do this very often. If you listen to us on another platform besides YouTube, would you do us a huge favor and go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to it and like the episodes? It helps us. It helps the algorithm. It helps us get to more Chiefs fans. It helps more people see everything. Mm-hmm. And we've come to find out YouTube is a very different algorithm beast than all of the other stuff. So the more you guys help us out there, plus we're going to have a lot of content that you're going to want to watch some of it too. So you have to
it's good to watch some content. You can see our beautiful faces.
Visual content for you guys as well. So
you can see Tom's big red beard. You can see Scout and Tank make appearances. See all kinds of fun stuff. So be sure to tune in, and we appreciate you guys. And that being said, we'll see you next week and on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.